my new album. Just Ass Rub.
Ass Rub. Title track.
Right.
Comes right in real low. It's like the sound of rain. The thunder goes, and back in the medieval days, there once was a master of the Shire.
And then you have one like pan. Have it pan. Put a flange on it and pan it.
The horns go up.
Oh, invisible horn, yeah. Invisible horn section. With all the mics behind them.
Oh, man. Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Ike from Flipside Music, and welcome to What the F.A.Q. Season 3, number 15.
Yep.
Right?
I believe so.
I got it right this week.
Yep.
Weekly question and answer show. You ask us a question, we give you an answer. Hopefully somebody watches it. And that's kind of it. And I'm here with
Dylan.
As always. Well, not as always, but mostly.
Mostly, yeah.
Just about mostly. All right, well, we'll jump in quick this week. We won't sidetrack. We sidetracked prior to starting.
Yes, yeah,
there was a whole...
Got a lot of sidetracking.
There was a whole horn...
Preemptive sidetracking.
There was a whole horn thing in Dylan's new album. You chop up the front and put clips of that.
Yeah, I'll put part of that in.
Picture on the side. Okay, so we sort of sidetracked. All right, go ahead. Question number 1.
All right. Here we'll leave Ben's for somewhere in the middle. Headwop 26. Why are there any other bass shapes other than P bass?
There are.
There are, but why?
And there are.
That's the question, though. So I think he's trying to assert that it's mostly? That it's the supreme bass shape. Because I mean,
it
really,
kind of falls back all the way to the beginning. It's like, why do we have things that look like Strats and Teles all the time?
Right.
Like, predominantly everything's either a Strat or Tele or Les Paul.
Well, there is something about the P bass though that like fundamentally made its way to pretty much. I mean, there's obviously variations, but I feel like most of the variations have almost been
still the same kind of
right, and there've been guitar bodies that made their way into the bass. Whereas like the P bass shape, even though it's basically like a giant warped Strat.
Essentially.
But yeah, so that's well, it is. It's the giant warped Strat
with a big nose.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Nice bass, big nose.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the tone comes from.
Right. Comes from the horn.
But yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like even the Rickenbacker 4000s, like any of the 4001s, 4003s, any of that
stuff. Warwick stuff, even with the little.
Yeah.
Still, it's just a variation on the theme.
Right.
It's essentially all the...
It's like if you carved away any of the extra curves and just straightened out
all about the same
horn.
It's the same-ish stuff.
Yeah.
If
you bend out the horn, it becomes a Warwick.
Yeah, pretty much. If you just roll it out.
Yeah. Roll it, yeah.
Like a biscuit.
Yeah, like you're going to make that or you're going to make some noodles later. Like when you roll it back up to do the cutting.
Yeah, so for the most part, I mean, there's different variations, obviously. We're agreeing on
yes,
that.
but yeah, the predominant shape really is that one.
A lot of it does come off of that. Yeah, it's because, Leo did a good job right at the gate. Because it doesn't look like the electric bass doesn't look like the stand-up bass.
No, and I mean,
which would have been its predecessor, essentially.
Right, and the Univox, like the violin basses, those are pretty cool. That's a pretty big departure, but I feel like those
are closer to...
Yeah, it's like a reference to those. Yeah. To the stand-up basses. But yeah, it's
you can get a Warlock bass somewhere still on eBay, I'm sure, if you really want to break out, and I think you get free eyeliner and wrist cuffs.
Well, and again, like with the P bass, going with that, like it still is easier to deal with. It kind of like it's easier sometimes to deal with Strats and Teles because I mean honestly, like the premise of what Leo
Explorer or something like that.
Yeah, because I mean I love my Explorer. It's worth that monstrosity case, but the monstrosity case has to come with it. So
yeah, and it also could double as a desk if it really goes right down.
It actually has sometimes. Yeah,
just put
as like a coffee table.
Boxes and we've used it here actually. Yeah. But all right, so all right, what do we got next?
All right, Ben Coombs, our preferred Canadian YouTuber.
Mr. Coombs, who really does not like...
Well, yeah, he's had a lot of...
United Parcel Service. Yeah. He's not a big fan of the Brown.
No. Well, I wouldn't be either with what he's describing, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine exactly what's going on other than just... I don't like a fundamental misunderstanding on their part. It seems like, but I don't know. It's very very weird the run-ins he keeps having with them. So
don't use UPS. Not saying that FedEx is any better, but they could be better. Or if you need something shipped, call us and we'll see what we can do to help you. And maybe we can help pinpoint where the problem is. If it's something, maybe it's the way it's being entered.
Well, that was what I was going to say.
Issue. So,
that's what I was going to say, because if you're having just like regular people take things to like a UPS store, it's not a wonder the UPS stores are not great. You know, they're just
not like we're shitting on UPS.
No,
we're just shitting on UPS.
Well, no, it's just kind of the way it is. Like they have room to improve.
Didn't your mother used to run a UPS store or
no pre-UPS store? Yeah. That was the thing, was the mailboxes, etc. If anybody remembers those were essentially what that was before, and they were really good. Like, because they were all usually family owned, you know, individual shops, and so they were all really really good, and they were basically too much competition for UPS. So when UPS was kind of on the climb, they essentially, you know, used more of their corporate power to bulldoze all the little ones.
That never happens here.
Yeah.
That never happens. Little guys never get squashed by the gigantic conglomerations that have endless money.
Right.
That get out of their bad business dealings with government handouts.
Right.
Never mind. I'm going to go out on
I'm going
to go out on commentary. Sorry.
There's our.
Sorry, I have a little bit of gripe sometimes with giant businesses and the way they do things. And how we get.
No, I mean, I think that's the big thing. I mean, I think a lot of the guys that watch also appreciate that, like, smaller businesses and keeping those afloat are what's really going to get, you know, because I mean, customer service is rare these days. I mean, we have customers that are surprised by it.
Yeah. Wow, you called me?
Right.
Yeah. I got a question, and I figured this is the easier way than trying to email you.
Well, even just having guys come in with their pedal board issues, and it's like just sitting down with them for 30. Like the guy the other day, I gave him like a Fuzz 101 because he just had never played Fuzz, and he brought us like a case of beer.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so it's like,
it was good beer too, not some.
Yeah, it was really good stuff. Yeah, so it was like nice stuff like that. Really
goes a long way.
And it means a lot for small businesses too, because it's like we're just regular people. We're not like some massive entity.
Right. We're just regular dudes drinking beer.
Right. Having a good time.
Right. And not trying to get a real job.
Right.
Well, this is a real job.
Yeah.
It's just we get to play with cool things.
Right.
You know, it's not like we're selling toasters and Cuisinarts and such.
Yeah. We're selling little fun boxes and fun pieces of
the lightning.
Right.
Okay.
So Ben's question. But after all of that, Ben's question was, any experience with the Hipshot B Bender?
Not really. The only one I've really kind of seen or checked out was at Texas Toast Guitars, and it was a cool thing.
We had
it's
that
an interesting thing, you know.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Like
you have to. I think you got to play something that's going to warrant all that.
Squeaky.
That you know, that contraption in your Tele.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. We had one that was on a G&L used that came in, and I kept trying to use it, like trying to learn how to use it, but I mean, other than just doing like those cool little like things where you'd hit a that's what I was gonna say. Like, other than hitting like a chord and doing those little almost, you know, lap steel kind of bend things, where it sounds like a faux lap steel kind of thing. Other than that, like I didn't get very far. So I guess I can't really say. I mean, I'm sure it seems like any of the guys that know how to use them make it look awesome. I just never messed with one long enough.
A lot of the country guys,
they look cool.
Super cool. I just don't know that I would do that to one of my Teles because it's pretty invasive. The big one that hangs on the strap.
It is, right. Yeah, because there's that one, and then I think there's the double unit now, which is the G Bender and B Bender, right?
Well, we had that one that you could. It had one arm that stuck this way, so you could. Right. You could play something and hit with your arm,
well, and then
or you could bend into it, and then there was another one that you hit with your arm. So
it had like 3 or something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It's just a lot. I mean, we sold that one pretty quick, actually.
We did,
but you gotta.
Well, that was one where somebody, like another customer that bought it, I'm sure saw like the effort that the guy that had it installed went to, and he's like, "This is going to save me a lot of time and money." So but I think they're definitely worth it. But it'd be one of those things where you'd have to really learn how to use it. So, kind of like we were talking about earlier, actually, before the show. Like, learning how to use the gear you have goes a really long way.
Yeah, dialing in, spending that extra time. You can't. You know, because we've had, actually this week we had a couple customers that have asked us or emailed us, hey, what about this thing?
Right.
And it's like, we have already sold you things that do that thing.
Yes.
And we know that there's at least 2 or 3 ways to accomplish what you're trying to get.
Right.
You just don't know how to get there.
Well, yeah.
So it's kind of, and then that goes back to the customer service thing, like bring it in. We'll show you how to dial it in because you can get that sound you're looking for with what you've already purchased.
Right.
And so sometimes it's very valuable to take the time to really learn the piece of gear you have.
Right.
You know, or even if you just want to dial in the one thing that you need it to do and it does it great, that's fine too. But sometimes, you know, it's good to just experiment and have fun with it.
Right.
That kind of goes on to the next question.
That's what I was just going to say, actually. That feeds right into that. Yeah, so Yerix29 says best tone to cost ratio with a piece of gear. So this,
I think we're both going to pick the same thing.
No, dude. Oh, really?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
I know what I'm going to pick. And this has been the most popular thing for the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to actually go sort of, well, I know where you're going to go now, so I know where I'm going to go now knowing that.
Now
that I know that you know that you know I know.
Clearly can't pick the one in front of me.
But yeah, mine would be more, because it kind of feeds in the MIDI stuff from last week. So I'll let you do your question, and then I'll do mine.
Okay, mine's easy, and I think it's pretty, for the cost and what you get, I'm going to have to go Boss Katana again.
Yeah.
I picked out a number of times with questions similar to this. It's just like, you can get so much out of it, and you can get so much use from it.
You can learn so much from it,
and you can learn a ton from it. Like the Boss Katana 50, I'll be very specific.
Right.
And that's just because it's loud enough if you wanted to play with other people. Right. You have all the Boss stuff. You can get into the Tone Central, and if you're a newbie, you're just practicing, and you want to play around with tones and different things, you can get in there and mess around and waste a whole freaking weekend.
Yeah, you want to learn what phases and delay and all the different effects that you've never had, or maybe you've never messed with or given a fair shake.
Yeah, you can. All of that is there, so it's a great amp just to go experiment with a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And it's very usable. What I love about it is that it literally is usable on the panel.
Yes,
you don't have to deep dive into menus and get all this crazy shit to find something that's usable. You can use it. Now I know other people have not had great experience, or there's been people that don't get it or don't work with it well, because I'm on forums and they're like, oh, I bought it and I'm 2 days and I'm sending it back. I'm like, I feel like you didn't dial it in.
Yeah.
Or you didn't do the reset, or you didn't look into anything past what you are, or did you consider your room that you're playing in? Because there's so many factors that make things different. I thought there was a problem with my Blues Junior once. And it really was the way I had a position in the room, the way the frequencies were bouncing around.
Yeah, no, I one of my cabinets I thought was messed up. I thought for sure I messed up a speaker, but I was getting some weird sympathetic vibration from the other side of the room.
Yeah.
But it was really weird because it was showing up more in the recording than I could hear it. So it was a weird sound.
It was a weird thing that was happening in the room. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I've seen in forums of people send it, I don't know. And then, but the majority of us are like, I don't know about you, man, but I could dial it in right from the top. So that's why I'm going to pick that.
And that also feeds into furthermore, what we were talking about with it feeds into what we were talking about in terms of learning how to use the piece of gear, because that's the whole thing with the Katana is like you're right, you could just do the surface level and get more than enough out of it. But honestly, if you do a deep dive with that one, it's pretty amazing what you can you can swap out all the different effects. You can add parametric EQs, graphic EQs. You can change the signal chain order. So if you're using it with other pedals in the front, you can change the delays so that it would be in the effects loop without having to actually change anything on the amp. So a lot of that stuff in terms of flexibility goes a long way. And that's where I was going to go with honestly, with Strymon or even Chase Bliss or some of these pedal companies that allow for 300 or more presets on a pedal. Because I had a customer the other day that was essentially arguing that he thought the Strymon stuff was super limited and that we were just paying $300 essentially for surface level stuff. And I'm like, well, yes, if you're only going to use it as just the one and done surface level. Yeah. Right. And it's the whole reason those guys engineered it to have MIDI capabilities is so you could essentially have 300 of that pedal. So to me, $300 for 300 presets, like you're paying $1 per preset. That's almost $1 per pedal.
If you're using it.
If you're using it that way.
Right. But
I would agree the other way, that if you're not going to, then yeah, it is probably
find some,
limited.
if you're looking for a chorus pedal, let's say.
Right.
But you only need to do it for very limited, or you're not using it a lot, then just find something that does the thing that you're happy with the quality of the sound is.
Right.
But if you're doing something that's going to be super deep dive, presets, a bunch of different songs or whatever, then we know.
Yeah.
It's worth it to jump into some of that stuff, because there's a lot in there that you can squeak out. The problem is that a lot of people, I would say, I wonder what the percentage is, honestly, of like people that don't squeak out the most of their gear.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's got to be a fair number, because that's one of those things, like some of these guys that do bring in certain pedals that, you know, have the capabilities that I'm talking about, like, you know, all these presets, or even like the ES8 that I have, like when that guy brought it into trade, he'd only made literally eight presets. Like the thing is capable, and it was 8 presets with just like each pedal on and off, which you can do in manual mode. So it's like he really hadn't done like not even 1% of like what that thing was capable of, and he got rid of it. And I'm like, that I understand that maybe it was, you know, either too complicated or wasn't the right thing for him, but at the same time, like those things are meant to really, you know, meant to do the deep dive. Like a lot of that stuff that has those capabilities, it's like all the stuff kind of underneath, you know, the hood is really what you're paying for. It's not
sets it apart, right? But we see it all the time, right? I mean, we kind of see it all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Some of those things, like if you know you're just not a preset kind of person, then yeah, you're right. Like stick to the. There's plenty of stuff under $200 that is amazing, that doesn't do presets and is very easy to use. So
like and it does a specific thing, but it does it very well. You know, like if you don't need
if you don't need a ton of variations,
a stereo double delay that has this and that ping ponging,
and dotted eighths with pan heads, and
I just need a delay a little bit at the end so it fills things out and doesn't sound like shit.
Right.
That's what you go get.
Exactly.
All right, where are we at?
Mr. Richard Smoker, why are MesaBoogies so awesome? It's a good question, because we both own them now. Now you can chime in more. I can
say they just got a great. I mean, well, what I like is you got a very nice, warm, clean tone.
Yes,
it's
particularly the Marks. We're both Mark owners,
so the clean tones are killer. But also, when you start driving it, it's like, this is so nice.
Well, it's the smoothness.
Yeah, there's a smooth drive to it that just.
It's like it's crisp, responsive, tight, but it's still smooth, and that's what gets me like with the Mesa thing, is because a lot of other amps that are like crispy and tight are not usually smooth. Like they tend to get a little shrill on like the high end or whatever it is, but MesaBoogies always compress in just the right spot to where you don't get
bit of the edge off, so you're cool.
Yeah, but I mean that would be
that's it.
Yeah, that would be me, because I think the same thing. Amazing cleans, amazing drive, and I mean that's kind of what they're built on, as being some of the first 2-channel amps that were really worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Shite.
Right.
Worth a shite. All right. So last question is from RNA Music, our preferred Texan mom and pop guitar shop and lesson
YouTubers.
Studio.
Yeah. And
Ryan and Angela over there. So if you don't know and you're watching us, go subscribe to them. They're super nice people. And they do the same thing kind of as we're doing. Yeah.
If you have a giant beard and you need beard advice, Ryan will give it.
Ryan is definitely your guy. So Ryan asks, best cheap Tele. So that's subjective, because I don't know what cheap is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean,
like what, are we talking 500 or less, or 300 or less? You know what I mean? So how
about let's do in this today's day and age with taxes, let's do 600 and under.
Well, 600 and under, that's a huge.
Well, I think that's a good mark, because if we go above that,
let's say
that's going to expand the field like way too far.
What about like 300 or so, 350-ish? Because that's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, but I mean, then we're almost starting to cut out the classic vibes at that point, because I mean, they're in like
okay, so then let's just say we're somewhere in there, because I mean, there's the G&L.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is like there's several variations of the ASAT that would run you 400 to 600. So that was going to be So
I'd say G&L ASAT classics or variations
or specials. The specials are awesome.
The classic vibe by Squire.
Yes.
Very good stuff.
Especially the new, like they're doing like more themed ones. That double bound is amazing.
That thing is sweet. Yeah. I was like, how much is this? I almost want to take it home myself.
Well, it's so cool because like it looks kind of like Eric Clapton's Blind Faith Tele.
Yeah.
Like it looks very similar.
Also, the Harley Benton stuff. I mean, from Tolman.
Everything
that we've seen from them and played, it's been good, and that stuff goes down really cheap.
That's true.
A couple $100.
Yeah.
So those are good. Let's see what else that's like in the Tele realm that's inexpensive. There's some lower now. See,
no, I think I was gonna say, I think we hit that middle mark pretty good. I mean, if you go below, I mean, to me, like once you go below the classic vibe stuff, you're kind of in a relatively similar.
Yeah. The Affinity stuff, they're still running now. What, $279?
Yeah, they're in that range. Like I think this is the low one, $229.
The low one is the Bullet, and that's like $229.
Yeah, so like $229 to like $350 is where the the sub classic vibe stuff is at.
Yeah, and the Fender or the Squier Affinity series stuff is good. It just needs a proper setup, and once it's properly set up, they play pretty well. So I mean, there's some solid choices for Tele action.
You even know what you're doing, Ziggy?
Ziggy's
right here. You guys can't quite see him.
He's getting into stuff.
It's like bumping in t-shirt bins.
We should have a Ziggy cam.
We should have a Ziggy.
Put a little helmet on him with a camera, and then everybody can. We just check in with the Ziggy cam. Ziggy, how you doing there?
He's like our helicopter.
Yeah, we got Ziggy here.
We've got 3 cars arriving out in the front lot.
He's like, look at him. He's like, what do I got to do? I'm in. You're a good boy.
He's game.
You're a good boy. All right. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out for F.A.Q this week. Please subscribe, ring the bell, all that stuff. We do have more demo stuff coming out pretty soon, and a bunch of other cool stuff that's going to be happening soon. So we'll catch you guys on the flip side.